Hey guys, I'm Emily Sedona. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to go through some of your van life and car camping Q&As, so I have them all on my phone. I asked this over on Instagram earlier this week, and I'm going to answer as many as I can. So let's jump into it. I do have a bit of a cold this week, so don't mind my raspy voice. And these aren't in any real order. They're kind of just in the order that they were asked. So first question is, do you ever get bored? What do you do to pass the time? So I think a lot of people think that when you live in a van or a vehicle, life is so much different, but really it's not, especially since I have Starlink. Like if I'm super bored, I'll just be on TikTok in the van. I try really, really hard not to be doing that. So I'll be like reading or working, editing YouTube videos, stuff like that. So I have plenty of things to fill my time, but I try to avoid doom scrolling and things like that. What do you do if you're having a bad mental health day on the road? This happens a lot. A lot of the times I'll have a bad mental health day if I've been driving too much. So I kind of felt myself unraveling a little bit. So I've actually been at this campsite for like 5 days. I'm feeling extremely refreshed. It's kind of fun to like set up camp and fully unwind and things like that. So when I am having a bad mental health day, it's really important that I eat properly and I get proper sleep. Hey. A lot of the time my mood is affected if I don't get enough water, food, or sleep. So that's like the trifecta of the problem starting. So yeah, I would say when I'm having a bad day, I just try to take a moment for myself. I try to find camp. I try to sometimes I'll set up camp in a parking lot just for a couple hours during the day if I need to decompress. It can be really hard on your mental to be driving a lot, and I think that's just where a lot of my problems start. So I try to just be careful about that. This one kind of goes with that. How do you stay focused driving for so long? I can't imagine driving more than 4 hours a day. So in order to get to the western side of the country, I literally was driving like 8 hours a day just to get out here. That is not super normal unless I get in my mind that I want to go to a really cool location, and then I'll usually like deadhead there. Typically, I try not to drive more than like 3 hours a day, and I definitely don't do that every day. I'll usually drive 3 hours, set up camp for a few days, and then find another location like 3 hours away, do the same thing over again. I'm definitely not driving every single day. I feel like that would be so exhausting. But I am trying to be a lot better about traveling slower. So that's like setting up camp for longer time, like 5 days or something like that, and then moving like an hour away. I think that slow living is also more like cost effective, which we'll get into. How much does gas cost you? So my ProMaster gets like 17 miles per gallon on the highway, which isn't that bad for a giant van. But coming from my RAV4 that literally got like 30 miles per gallon on the highway, it's a detrimental difference. I think I never let my gas tank get below half because I'm so afraid of running out of gas. I've run out of gas before. It's like a trauma for me. So I'm so paranoid that I won't go below half a tank. So every time I fill up half a tank, it's about $50. In California, it was so expensive. I think it was like 60 or something like that. I don't really know. To be honest, I'm not great with gas prices. I would have to look at my credit card statement at the end of this trip and let you guys know all the costs of everything. Can you explain your Patreon tiers? Yeah, so Patreon is one of my ways that I cover my gas funds every month. My Patreon is set up in a 3-tiered system. The first tier is $5 and doesn't give you access to anything. It's kind of just like a donation, like a cup of coffee or things like that. The second tier is $10, and that gives you access to all of my secret vlogs. So when I have enough service, I typically upload a private YouTube video that only my Patreon members get a link to. I talk about my day, I talk about things that happened, kind of uncensored, unedited, things like that. And then for my third tier, that's $20 a month, and you get all of the secret vlogs, and then you also get sorry, am I like screaming? And then you also get access to all of my campsites. So I post the location, I post the photos, I post the GPS coordinates, how to get there, the amenities, things like that. So it's really just, if you're one of those people that is always dying to know where I'm camping so that you could go there too, that's the only place that I'll post it. How do you find such secluded camping spots? Do you search for them beforehand? Use the app iOverlander. So today, for instance, when I'm looking for my campsite for tomorrow, I'm going to go on iOverlander and I'm going to kind of look in like a 2-hour radius, and I'm going to check all the campsites that are marked on there. And I'm going to look at reviews, look at photos. I never go anywhere that doesn't have a review and a photo. I would never just blindly go out into BLM land, especially I feel like I would have done that before in an SUV, but with this van, I can't really back up and turn around in like tight areas, so I need to know what the road conditions are like. So I do a lot of research beforehand. How do you deal with the heat when camping? Babe, you just deal with it. I'm really lucky because when you leave the van door open like I have right now and you run the max air fan that I have, it creates this like wind turbine, so it's nice and cool in here even though it's like 75 degrees outside. That's why I have Yeti in here, because it's too hot outside. Before, when we were in the SUV, that was like the most difficult thing for us. I hate heat. I especially hate humidity. That's why my trip to Florida was so miserable. When it's hot, you kind of just have to deal with it in a vehicle. It is definitely a lot better in the van, I will say. It's made a huge difference. How do you deal with period cramps on the road? I get this question all the time. It's really not that different, I think, personally. I think a lot of people are like really weirded out by this because I get comments about it all the time. Your period is the exact same in a van as it would be in your house. And especially in a van, I can still use a heating pad if I need it. Not that I have one, but it's all the same, except like, yeah, you don't like shower as much. But if you were that concerned, I would say to like camp out at a Planet Fitness for a little bit. I don't really know. I just deal with it the same way I deal with my period at home. Do you ever do any random or seasonal jobs while on the road? I personally don't, because I make all of my income online constantly, but I know a lot of people who do seasonal jobs, and it's really fun when you do that because then you're kind of in the like poppin' area for that season. Like I know a lot of people who do like ski resort jobs and then they get to ski all winter, and then in the summer they'll do like national park jobs and things like that. There are so many options, and a lot of my friends did that growing up, and they're so cool and they had the best times ever. What's your favorite thing to collect or buy when traveling? I collect a lot of rocks. I collect crystals. I also collect patches for my camp jacket. My camp jacket has not left my closet in over a year because now I feel like if I ever lost it or damaged it, I would be heartbroken because it's got a patch from all the national parks I've been to, all the cool camp areas I've been to. So I still collect for it, but I don't wear it or bring it anywhere because it's like my most cherished possession. What shoes do you wear when camping? I wear these crusty fake Birkenstocks. I get them off of Amazon and I get a new pair every single year. And then I also wear my Tevas with the suns on them. And then I wear my Docs a lot. I also have my collection of cowboy boots with me, which I wear often. I probably have at least 6 pairs of shoes with me, which I feel like is overkill for van life. Like, I don't know a lot of people who live in their vehicles that have that. But for me, like a big part of my job is shooting content, like for OnlyFans and for Instagram. And for Instagram, I like to play around with outfits and clothes, so it's crucial to me to have like multiple footwear options. What's your favorite go-to camp meals? So camping in the van has allowed me to cook a lot more. My goal for my last trip was to cook more meals for myself, which I feel like I did, but it was really hard in the RAV to cook. And if you know me, you know that I actually don't cook a lot in real life. I grew up, my mom always cooked for us in the house, and then moving in with Cap, he loves to cook, so he does all the cooking. So I'm really just learning as I go, but I've been using my Coleman stove, and I've been doing a lot of like taco type things because I feel like that's easiest. So I'll cook up a bunch of veggies and I'll cook up some sausage or some tofu, and I'll put the rest in like a container, and then I can just like heat it up and make tacos out of it for the next couple days, and that way I only have to do dishes once. How do you plan and find all the places you want to go? So a lot of it has to do with where my friends are. A lot of it has to do with what I see on social media. Like, I'm kind of obsessive in the way that if I see a TikTok in a place that I really find beautiful, I will find where that place is and I will go there like tomorrow. So I'll do things like that. I really like finding like quirky places to go or like interesting art places to go. So it's really just, if I can figure out where something is, I will drive there immediately. As far as a plan, I never have a plan. I never really know where I'm going. I feel like this is the most structured trip I've ever had because I'm meeting up with a lot of people on this trip, so everything's kind of been scheduled around that. And I'm not going to do that again because it's preventing me from just like roaming around where I want to be, which is how I prefer to travel. What clothes do you pack or your staples? Oh, this is a loaded question. So this trip I tried to pack less knowing that I would thrift. Usually I pack a full car and then I thrift so many clothes that clothes end up like jam-packed everywhere and don't have any sense of organization. So I packed accordingly this time. I still definitely overpacked, but for staples this trip, I had to pack everything for hot weather and cold weather, which immediately doubles what you're bringing, right? So I always have like tank tops, jeans, lots and lots of comfy clothes for driving days. I have lots of fun outfits. Like I pick my staple pieces that honestly are never practical, but they look really good in like pictures and videos, which is my job. So I have to pack all that. Packing for me is really stressful. I remember before this trip, I had literally tore up my entire closet and it was all in the living room of my house. And it was so stressful trying to figure out what I would bring and what I wouldn't bring. Like for instance, I literally have like 12 pairs of sunglasses with me right now. Like make it make sense. I am not a minimalist van lifer. How do you not get bored driving long hours? It's really weird because my parents always said that as a baby, they would take me for car rides to like soothe me. And I feel like I'm the exact same as an adult. Like driving, I'll listen to really fun music. I have lots of playlists that I love that like set moods for the day. And then I also have started listening to Audible, which I really like. So I've been like listening to a lot of books. And sometimes I listen to podcasts. I have not been listening to true crime podcasts because I feel like it just really messed with my mental for a while, but I would always listen to Morbid before. I talk on the phone with Cap and my mom while I'm driving. It just like, I have lots of things and my mind is a very busy place. So I'm really never bored when I'm driving. What factors do you use to determine a good campsite other than cell service? You know, it really just comes down to space. If there's a nice, spacious area where I can see campers and things like that, that's why I prefer the desert over like forest. Because if someone's coming down the road, I can see them from a mile away in the desert because there aren't any trees or anything like that. But in a dense forest, like I don't know who's about to roll up on me, so I'm always kind of more on edge. Also, a good campsite would be somewhere where the neighbors are kind of far away so that I can let Yeti off leash because he just likes that and it's better for him. The best campsites would be near like a water source because I just think it's fun when it's hot to be able to jump in somewhere. But like this in the desert, a pretty view, I'm pretty easy with what makes it a good campsite. No trash though. I don't like trashed campsites. The best and worst area for camping or stealth camping. So literally in my RAV and my Corolla, you could park anywhere and no one would ever think that anyone was living in that car. So you could park in cities. You could get away with so much more if you're not in a van. Vans are kind of like a huge red flag now because everybody knows, no matter how nice your van is, everybody knows that someone's living in there. You can sleep in hotel parking lots. You can park on residential streets. You can park sometimes in like downtown overnight parking areas. You could park in parking garages. Like the options are endless. Favorite thing from each rig you've ever had? This makes me feel like I am living in luxury. Living in this van, I am so comfortable. I have everything I need. I have so much space. I'm never feeling burnt out. Like on my other trips, I would always be like, oh my God, I gotta get a hotel like once a week just to like decompress. I don't feel like that at all. I feel like I have all the space in the world. I feel really grateful. I really, really love it. My Corolla got the best gas mileage out of any of my cars, although it was really cramped and really hot. Looking back, I didn't think that because I didn't have anything to compare it to. Now, I don't necessarily think that I would do that again. My RAV4, I really loved because it was four-wheel drive. You could go anywhere in that thing. Stealth camping was really good. I had all the space I needed, and you could drive that thing anywhere. Like off-roading, it was fine. Like it could handle so much. I have the same tires on my van as I did on the RAV4, but obviously like this van, I know a lot of people who have this same model, and across the board it's like don't park when it's wet, don't park in sand, blah 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 blah. So I'm always worried about that, but I never had to worry about getting stuck in my RAV4. I do really miss that. How do you wash your dishes? So this is my sink here. and the sink is broken. Otherwise I would use the sink. But what I do is I take a gallon jug of water and I have a little electronic water dispenser and I wash them in the sink, and then the soapy water goes into my gray water and I find a gray water dump station to dump that. Pretty simple. It's just like washing your dishes at home, pretty much. How do you budget for food? Do you eat out or go grocery shopping? So this trip, I've been doing a lot more cooking. I grocery shop all the time, and sometimes that's not like necessarily items I would cook. I do a lot of fruit. I do a lot of yogurt with granola, super easy. I buy a lot of pre-made salads, which I'm very into right now. So I've been eating on the healthier side. Before, I feel like I would eat out a lot, or I would eat like cold cans of SpaghettiOs and soup, which is like kind of fucked up, but if you've lived out of a vehicle, you've probably done it once or twice. I don't really have a food budget, and I do feel like when I was with Cap, we ate out a lot just because it's fun and we were like on vacation, and my mom is coming and we'll probably eat out a lot too. But I don't really have a food budget per se. Groceries are less expensive than when I'm at home just because I'm buying less and I'm only buying what I need. So I don't have like all the extra room for snacks that I probably wouldn't eat anyway. So yeah, it's definitely a tighter budget having like a fridge that's like this big, you know? What is the hardest part about sleeping in the van? I love sleeping in the van. I am having the best nights of sleep that I have ever had in my life in the van. The other night, I slept with my fan vent open and the fan wasn't running. In the middle of the night, I woke up to this like clawing sound and I was so scared. I like didn't know what it was. And then I heard, hoo, hoo, hoo. And there was an owl perched on top of my Max air fan for like 20 minutes hooting. It was incredible. It was amazing. And last night I heard coyotes howling all night, and it was just so wild and beautiful. And also, my bed is so comfy. It's a Tempur-Pedic. My sheets are so comfy. I sleep so well in here. When I don't sleep well in here, it's because my 6'4" boyfriend is staying in here with me, and he can't fit long ways in the bed, like wall to wall the way we sleep. So he sleeps diagonal, which means I have to sleep scrunched up in a little ball. So that was pretty miserable for the 11 days that we were in the van together. But, you know, I'm right back to being comfy now that he's gone. How or will you name your van? So the van was previously named Nessie. The owners, Willie and Ella, were really cool, and they told me her name and sent me like how everything works on like a document that said like Nessie on it. I don't know. I've never named a vehicle before. I feel like she hasn't told me her name yet, but I do think that it's something like not a person name. You know what I mean? Like something like groovy and something fun. I haven't decided yet though. How are you able to afford this lifestyle? So I make all of my money online, as I've mentioned before. Right now I'm working really hard on making YouTube my main career, but as of right now, I generate income from YouTube, my Amazon affiliate links, so that's like my Amazon storefront. My primary income right now is OnlyFans, and then I also have like a couple little affiliate links here and there, but my secondary income is any brand deals that I get throughout the month. So I have a new management team and I work with brands to push out like advertising and things like that. And I usually work with brands that I really like Jackery or Pear Eyewear, things like that, like stuff that I actually use. How do you find or plan where you BLM camp? Again, I just hop on iOverlander and kind of see what is near where I am at that given moment and find the best options. Or sometimes I'll see like a van lifer who is camped in a really beautiful spot and I'll be like, hey, where is this? And they'll kind of like tell me, which is really cool. Would you travel outside the US with your van? Is that a goal? So if you guys have been watching my channel for a long time, you know I'm dying to go to Alaska. I was supposed to go to Alaska last spring and it didn't end up happening just because of Yeti's health issues, but we've gotten everything resolved. Now I have the van. I kind of want to make sure that like the van is where I want build wise, so I'm going to spend the summer building it out. The end of summer, early fall, I'm going to the Pacific Northwest and I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to cut through Canada and go up into Alaska, which is like my dream, but we would have to cross the border, which makes me really nervous with Yeti. So we're trying to figure out like a system in the van where if people were to board and search my van, I can keep Yeti safe and also keep the people searching the van safe from Yeti. So that's just kind of all just depends on how the van build goes this summer. I do think that a lot of van lifers go to Mexico for the winter, which would be really fun for next year. But I also just like don't deal super well in really hot weather, and I think it'd be really hard with Yeti. So I'm not sure. I really don't know if we'd be taking the van into any other countries. Probably, definitely Canada at some point, but I'm not really sure. How flexible are you with your arrival and destination times? I travel best when I don't have a destination time or anywhere to be. Like I said, this trip is really hard because I'm meeting up with a lot of people. So I like have this timeline of what dates I'm meeting them and where I need to be. But I enjoy my travels better when I don't have anywhere to be. And it's like creative freedom of I wake up and I decide what I'm going to do that day. So I prefer to be very flexible. Do you stop at laundromats or to do your laundry or by hand? Yeah, so laundromats are the best bet. So I'll usually just go in and you can do like multiple loads at once to make it super easy. Just stayed in an Airbnb with Cap and kind of got all of my laundry done, so I probably won't need to do it for like another week and a half or so. But yeah, laundromats are awesome. And before I had like the whole solar setup, I would go in the laundromat and I would also like plug in all my electronics in like every single outlet in the laundromat, and I would like really just like charge up on everything I needed. How does it work with Yeti? Looking into a van and want my dog to come with. So traveling with a dog is a lot harder. I think that van life with a dog is super glorified, and I think that people also don't realize that it's extremely limiting. It's best if you travel with the weather, so it's not great if it's 100 degrees, obviously, because you and your dog are going to be super hot the whole time. You can't leave your dog in the van if it's too hot ever, obviously. I recommend getting this app, this plugin called Waggle, which will attach to your car. I think it's like a subscription service, and it'll tell you how hot the interior of your car is. But when you have a dog, you have to plan your whole entire day to a T. Like, I have to shower soon, so tomorrow I'm going to Planet Fitness at 6 a.m. before the sun comes up and it gets hot, because that's the only time I can shower. You can only shower or grocery shop when the sun goes down because you can't leave your dog in a hot van. You can do the double lock trick, which is where you use your spare key to keep the car running and lock the door with the dog in the van. But again, don't plan on leaving your dog for more than 10 minutes. Like, I would never. It's just very complicated. Like, if you want to explore a city, I can give you a million pros and a million cons. I know all the cons because I know all the things that I can't do now that I have him, and I would never trade him for the world because I probably wouldn't do this without a dog. But especially with him, like, we could never go sit outside at a restaurant because he's aggressive. So you could probably do that with your dog if your dog is nice, but we can't. So cities are super hard to travel in. That's why I don't do it, because I can't leave him in the car, obviously. So yeah, it's just like, if you want to travel and go to museums, which I do love museums, forget it. It's out the window unless you get an Airbnb. So I'm fortunate enough that I do get an Airbnb or a hotel room time to time if there's things that I want to do outside of the van that I can't bring him to. What website do you use to find these cool and unique roadside attractions? So there's actually a website called Roadside America, and that has all the like weird like roadside attractions that you would ever possibly want to find, like weird museums, weird statues, things like that, like giant ears of corn, giant cows. That's the website that I use, and they pop it all up on a map, so it's really easy to navigate. Do you genuinely think it's cheaper than living normally in a house or apartment? Yeah, if you don't already have a house or apartment. I think that it really depends. If you do slow life van life and you're staying at a spot for 2 weeks, which is the max you can stay at a campsite on BLM land usually, if you're staying in one spot for 2 weeks and then you're going 2 hours away and you're staying there for 2 weeks, and then you're going 2 hours away and you're staying there for 2 weeks, it is going to be so cheap, like ridiculously cheap. But if you do what I do and you're driving here, there, and everywhere every day of the week because you want new scenery and you have all these places you need to see and you've only got 2 months to do it, then it's going to be more expensive. So I've spent probably $1,000 on gas already on this trip, and I've been gone a month. I mean, maybe less, but probably not. And then you add accommodations in, and you add eating out in. So I really just think that, like, if you were cooking all your meals, doing slow life, van life, and not driving a million miles a week, it's super cheap. It's so doable. Do you get scared at night when you're camping in the middle of nowhere? Sometimes. I mean, I think it really just depends. I don't get scared here. I don't get scared if there are like neighbors around. I don't get scared if I can like see for a long time. I don't get scared if I have phone service. I think that you have to learn to be sleeping in the woods by yourself, if that makes sense. It's like a learned bravery. The more you practice, the braver you get, if that makes sense. I used to be really scared all the time, but now I've spent so many nights sleeping in a vehicle that it's like not a big deal. And in here, it's crazy because I put all my window coverings up. No one can see in. Lights are on, music's going, I'm watching Netflix. Like, it's literally like being inside of a house. It's like the outside world doesn't exist. So I think it's just something you get used to. Do you feel safer in the van versus the car? Is there anything you miss about the car or SUV? I definitely feel safer in the van because I can like move around and I'm not exhausted all the time and things like that, because I can move around and I just have more space and I'm eating better and all that. The only thing that I do miss about living in the car or SUV is this thing is so high, the clearance on it, I can't even go through drive-thrus because of that Air Max fan. So like, that's something to take into consideration. Like, you have to park if you want to get any kind of treat in a drive-thru. You have to go in. And what they won't tell you is a lot of drive-thrus are the only things that are open late at night. So you are not getting Taco Bell past 11 o'clock if you are in a Sprinter van. I love to road trip and camp in tents. Do you like camping in tents? No, tents scare me. I think that that is just a me thing. The first solo road trip I went on, I brought a tent, was convinced I was like, I can do this in an SUV because I'm gonna sleep in the tent every night. Bitch, no you are not. I slept in the tent one night, spent the entire night thinking that a mountain lion was going to slice through the tent and eat me while I was sleeping. Balled the tent up and just like never used it again. So I haven't brought a tent with me since. I don't feel safe in them. Sometimes Cap and I will tent on my dad's land when we're in New England, but that's like different because I feel safe with him. By myself, I do not feel safe in a tent. But if you do, that's amazing. And I'm happy for you. And you are safe in a tent. I'm just crazy. Biggest tip for girlies scared to get started solo traveling. I know it would be so freeing. Just do it. Do it and do it in a safe way. Don't camp anywhere you don't have phone service. Always share your location with people. Like, have multiple people checking your location. Always check in. This is where I'm going to be. This is when I'm leaving. This is when I'm arriving. Hey, I'm going down the road for groceries. I won't be too long. Like, always be constantly talking to someone. I think it's really important. Have some kind of protection, whatever you are comfortable with. And also, like, I am not for talking to strangers. I know like a lot of people will like ride bikes through campgrounds or like go for a walk, talk to their neighbor. I do not talk to strangers. I think that maybe that might come across as like cold, but if I'm sitting outside and a car goes by, I look like the most unfriendly person in the entire world. I do not smile, I do not wave, I do not invite conversation because I have no interest in talking to some random man in a camper that I do not know. I just don't. I'm here for me. And I also think that like we don't know anyone who is out here. I think it is really important to never be too trusting of anyone when you are on the road. And I think that that might be controversial because I think a lot of people are looking to make connections. That's fine. I'm not, especially as a solo woman traveler. I don't trust anyone. Do you have heat or AC that you can run for Yeti if you leave him in the van? I wish. Instead, I don't leave him in the van. Like I said, the only time I leave him in the van is when I wake up before or after the sun has gone down or come up. Like, it has to be dark outside. And I'll shower or do my grocery shopping if the temperature permits. For now, I heat the van with a little buddy heater, propane heater sometimes. And obviously have like a CO2 monitor and crack a window and all that stuff. But for AC, I don't have anything. I'd really love to add an AC unit, but they're really expensive. And I don't know when I'm gonna do that because that seems like a really big project that I'm just like not really cut out for at this time. Long-term goals, buying land or building. So right now I've been on the hunt for land, probably out in the desert for some time. I kind of have a bee in my bonnet to build like some sort of earthship house or like mud home in the desert. I think that's really cool. Cap and I have kind of been scouting like where we wanted to live on this trip and trying to figure out like a place that has affordable housing so that we can rent an apartment while we build on land nearby. And just kind of like do it as like a fun little project, nothing too crazy. Obviously we'd be doing everything ourselves, and keep it as cheap as possible and just kind of see where it goes. But for right now, yes, earthships are like absorbing and all consuming my brain. Have you been to every state? Every state except for Alaska. Yeah, and hopefully in the next 2 years I will be there. What are some changes you want to do to your van when you get home? This summer I'm planning on doing cabinets up here because right now all of my clothing is only accessible from the trunk, which if it's raining or cold and snowy, it's a pain in the ass to like walk all the way outside the van, get your clothes, come back in and change. And I just think that it would really help with like my organization. Again, I have no idea how to do that, so that'll be a trip. So I want to add cabinets. I also want to lower the van. I think the original owner of the van had bikes, so it needed to be high enough to put the bikes underneath. I don't need bikes, and Cap can't sit up in bed because of how tall he is. So I want to lower the bed so that he can be able to sit. And I also want to fix my sink because that was also something that I couldn't figure out in time for this trip. So a working sink would be really nice. What is the most enjoyable part of traveling for you? I really love waking up and getting to decide what I do every day because it's so different, and I really like all the time that I get to spend outside. And I know that people can be like, oh, well, you can live in a house and just go outside. I won't. I'll just stay on my phone, or I'll just watch TV or things like that. Also, I feel like I live in the van a lot of the time during the winter, so it kind of helps me escape seasonal depression, which is really nice. But for me, also, a lot of my friends are really spread out, and the only time I get to see them is when I'm living out of a vehicle. So, yeah, I don't know. There's so many cons to it for me. It makes me feel so alive living out of a van and not knowing where you're going to be at every day. How long does it take to find a camp spot? What happens if it's not good when you get there? So this has happened to me before, and if you drive to a campsite and the road is washed out, or it's a rough road and you can't get to the campsite, you're gonna have to turn around. And a lot of the time, there won't be other campsites around, in which case you're gonna drive an hour or 2 hours to a Walmart or a Cracker Barrel or something like that and just sleep in a parking lot until you can wake up in the morning and scout a new campsite with fresh eyes during the daytime. It's kind of shitty. It's like one of the shittier things that does happen, but it doesn't take me that long because I usually have a GPS coordinate from iOverlander as to where I'm going. But sometimes it just doesn't work out, and you do end up sleeping in a Cracker Barrel. But that's okay because it's usually pretty safe. Have police ever made you move or knocked on your vehicle? No, because I'm insane. I literally won't park anywhere that is not totally approved that I'm allowed to park there overnight. Because of Yeti, I am super vigilant to never park anywhere that I wouldn't be allowed to, because I think that dealing with a police officer and dealing with him freaking out over a man near the vehicle, I think it would just be like a disaster. So I pretty much prevent that any way I can. Do you ever get bored? What do you do to pass the time? I'm usually editing a YouTube video or filming a YouTube video or cooking or doing a word search or reading a book or watching a YouTube video or going for a walk or playing with Yeti, or shooting content. I do anything that I would do at home in the van with a better view. And now we have the last question, which is on everybody's mind all the time, and probably my most frequently asked question. What's the bathroom situation like? Well, guys, if you follow me on social media, by now you know that I have a pee jar. It's a big liter mason jar with a lid, and I pee in that, and that is what I use as my bathroom. And I empty it out in a bush, and that's what I use during the day. That's what I use at night. For number 2, I usually will find a bathroom for that somewhere. And if you can't find a bathroom, you have to dig a cat hole, which is a 6-inch hole. And now, because nobody knew how to do that, and for years people have not been digging cat holes and leaving their poop everywhere, you now have to pack out your poop. Part of Leave No Trace is packing out your own human waste. So you have to shit in a bag. And It's not pleasant, but I know a lot of you, it's a burning question of yours, so do with that information what you will. Thank you guys so much for watching. It was a really fun Q&A, and I'm sorry that my voice is a little raspy. That was so much talking that I definitely made it 12 times worse, but it was fun, and I love doing chatty videos with you guys. So I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. I love you so much.